My players had just finished up a side quest, taking out troglodytes that had invaded a mine on the edge of the city. It's a quest I've talked about in the channel, actually. It wasn't the main job they were on. They had been tasked with finding a missing person outside the city walls, but while heading out, they had learned of the monsters and decided to intervene. For a price. They were now returning to the mining foreman for payment. Turns out, there were more than they had initially expected. In their eyes, they deserved more gold than had been promised, especially after the wizard fooled their employer into believing there were twice as many as there had been. Still, the foreman held firm. They had a deal, and he would only be honoring that payment. The players were understandably upset, and in a fit of anger, the wizard hurled the small sack of coins they were given back at the foreman. He rolled a 1, so it didn't really do any damage, but the man called for the town guards, so my party booked it out of town, ready to embark on the next leg of their quest. But here's the thing. I knew they were going to come back to the city. Their main quest would bring them back if they wanted to get paid, and the foreman had called the guards on them. Sure, it wasn't the craziest thing they could have done, but if I let that slide, what would stop them from expecting to get away with bigger and wilder crimes? What to do? I'm a believer that in D&D, actions need consequences. The players' actions can and should have a big effect on the people and communities that they interact with. And as a DM, part of your job is figuring out what exactly those effects are. Following through with consequences, good and bad, can have a very real impact on your game. For example, Murderhobos. You can absolutely run a campaign where the players go around murdering and pillaging village after village, slaying both monsters and peasants alike. But a lot of folks don't want to run that sort of game. If you'd like your story to have any sort of emotional weight, the players need to feel like they're operating in a world that responds to their decisions, and both rewards them when they take heroic action, and pushes back when they mess up. If you let your party get away with everything under the sun, eventually it'll start to feel like no matter what they do, the game will always forgive them. Why bother following the rules of civilized society when burning it all down takes half the time and gets them the same result? Why be nice to the quest giver when they know you'll just make up another one when they murder this guy? Sometimes you gotta let them sweat it out and get in trouble when they make bad or dangerous decisions. Of course, that goes the opposite way too. A lot of the time, players lash out when they feel like the choices they're making don't influence the story at all. If every choice they try to make, even the good ones, lead to the same end, the only way for them to assert any control over where things are going is by truly derailing things. By giving the players consequences for their actions, you're ensuring that they still have agency in the story, while also incentivizing playing nice. And that agency is a good thing for you as the DM too. Sure, it can be great when things go exactly as you planned, but some of the best sessions I've ever run were when my players did things I never saw coming, or made decisions that weren't exactly the best call. But then I got to come up with some consequences. Some great for them, some not so much, that shook up the story and kept me on my toes. Whether during a session or in between, having those hiccups in the narrative lets you get creative and personalizes the game for you and your friends. Which NPCs live or die, how different cities react to the party, whether or not they succeed or fail. Different outcomes make it their story as much as yours. When coming up with consequences, people typically think in the short term. Your player stole, so the guards come. Or the party is nice to a shopkeeper, so they get a discount. But some of the most satisfying consequences are ones that don't show up until dozens of sessions later. Sure, if your players steal from a store, the guards will probably try to catch them. But what if, even after they escape, that shopkeep hires bounty hunters to track them down and get back their stolen goods? That's a fun encounter you can keep in your back pocket, ready to deploy when they least expect it, or you think it'll be the most fun. Or what about little choices that have big implications in the future? Choosing to help Gibbs the Goblin cross a river might seem small, but the consequence of that action could be the little guy bringing his entire horde to the final battle. Sometimes the best consequences are ones that the players never see coming, and pay off way down the line. One final warning though, sometimes Dungeon Masters confuse consequences with punishments. It's true that when your players do illegal, harmful, or crazy things, the consequences will usually be negative. But it's just as important to reward good actions with good consequences. Payment, adoration, and in-game goods are a few ways you can show the party their nice choices matter too. If you're only punishing bad actions and never acknowledging the good things they do, that'll get real old real quick. And even when you do have to hit them with something negative, going for the most hardline, damaging punishment may not always go over well. Sure, killing and imprisoning their characters for horrible deeds might be appropriate at times, but it'll often bring the game to a grinding halt while offering no real way forward. Consider alternatives instead. Deals with unsavory types to make their crimes go away, dangerous missions in service of paying off debts, political opponents who gather blackmail in secret. And if they do get caught, give them a chance to escape and live to fight another day. Even if it's not the most realistic outcome, it'll most likely be more fun. With all that in mind, what did I do with my coin-slinging players? Well, when they returned to town, the gate guards directed them to Sergeant Clarabelle, a corrupt official who was more than happy to get rid of those accusations against them, if they helped her collect some protection fees from a local. They decided not to work with her, until one of them got arrested like an hour later trying to break into a cult's church. Then they agreed. Though they were going to extort the poor shopkeep, the party paladin felt bad and decided to pay the guy's fees, but still tell the sergeant he'd ponied up. And down the line, many sessions later, they even got their revenge and took out the corrupt captain. Player choices, good character moments, and a villain for them to fight, all based on the consequences of one action. Seems like a no-brainer to me. That's it for this video. I'd love to hear ways your players' actions came back to help or haunt them in the comments. Before I go, I want to give a quick shout out to my friend Gomez over at Gaming Treasure Chest. Not only does he make fun videos, we did a couple together about magic items, but he has an Etsy store where he sells 3D printed goods designed by himself, all about D&D. He was kind enough to send me a couple really cool ones. A mug that doubles as a dice roller, some decorative magnetic dice, and my personal favorite, a loot dice holder. It is insanely cool. I mentioned how much I liked it, and he offered to send it to me for just the price of shipping, and then threw in all this other stuff too. He didn't even ask me to promote it, but he was so generous that I want to show him some love too. So thanks so much, Gomez, and if you like what you see, check out his shop. I'll link both it and his channel in the description. Thanks for watching, and if you enjoyed the video, leaving a like is always appreciated. And you should consider subscribing to the Bard's College. I make videos all about D&D, DMing, and everything in between, so stick around for more. But for now, good luck, and remember, crit your players.